so much for being with us here on Nation Tonight in this Monday evening. Let's begin with the top story that we are tracking at this hour. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who is on a three-day tour to Europe, held a bilateral meeting with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. Berlin is Prime Minister Modi's first stop in his Europe trip. The duo addressed a joint briefing post their meeting. Meanwhile, External Affairs Minister SJ Shankar also met with German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock, and the two reviewed the bilateral cooperation between the two nations. Ukraine and Indo-Pacific also featured in the talks between the two countries and the foreign ministers, and Prime Minister Modi was also accorded with the Guard of Honor in the German capital.
मुझे खुशी है कि इस वर्ष की मेरी पहली विदेश यात्रा जर्मनी में हो रही है। इस वर्ष के शुरुआत में किसी विदेशी लीडर के साथ मेरी पहली टेलीफोन वार्ता भी मेरे मित्र चांसलर शोल्ज के साथ हुई थी। चांसलर शोल्ज के लिए भी आज की भारत जर्मनी आईजीसी इस वर्ष की किसी भी देश के साथ पहली आईजीसी है। ये कई फर्स्ट दर्शाते हैं कि भारत और जर्मनी दोनों ही देश इस महत्वपूर्ण पार्टनरशिप को कितनी प्राथमिकता दे रहे हैं।
And my colleague Danish is joining me from where the action is happening. Danish, this is a very, very important meet that Prime Minister Narendra Modi really had with the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. One thing that will be headlined at least till tomorrow is going to be India batting for peace. In fact, he has chosen this particular platform to underline that India stands with peace when it comes to that war between Russia and Ukraine.
Well, yes, absolutely. India has been very consistent in its stand on the Ukraine war. Several ministers have spoken on record in different places around the world. The foreign minister spoke his mind in US when asked a question on that. So basically, the stand has been again made clear today by the Prime Minister. He spoke with the German Chancellor in that very crucial meeting, and as I have been saying, it has provided an opportunity for New Delhi to make the stand clear on the issue of Ukraine. So clearly that will dominate the headlines tomorrow. But if I could show you across, this is a venue where the Prime Minister is going to come and address the members of the Indian diaspora. And as you can see, people have come here from far off. There was a heavy demand for the tickets out here, and you can see here are the volunteers and of course members of the PM security staff and other officials who are here taking care of those who have to go in. And I understand that they have stopped now from allowing people to enter. The Prime Minister is expected any moment now. And as I said, plenty of action. In fact, we spoke to some volunteer earlier who said that around 1,200 to 1,500 people are expected to listen to the Prime Minister. But of course, there will be some performances as well. As you can see, there are people here who have come and they will be playing all this instrument. Kuch bolna chahenge? Anyone here would like to speak? Anything? Yes. Can you tell us a bit about what you're going to do for the Prime Minister?
We are going to play Maharashtrian traditional instruments. Yeah, so that's we are a group of friends who live here in the Germany, different parts of Germany, and we are going to perform for our Honorable Prime Minister.
Right. So here you heard they have all come here, as you can see, armed with all the instruments out here, and this is a very well-known venue here. It's a theater here, and as you can see, there is a huge cutout of the Prime Minister as well. The Prime Minister Narendra Modi is expected any moment here. He will be arriving here. As you can see, last final touches being done before the Prime Minister comes here and addresses members of the Indian diaspora here. Around 1,200 to 1,500 people will be coming here to listen to the Prime Minister from different parts of Germany, from Frankfurt, from Munich, and also, of course, Berlin. As you can see, there is a help desk here as well, which are all closed now. Last few entries, perhaps, people are trying to get in, but we understand that it was a full house show. A lot of people were disappointed because they were not allowed entry because the tickets were sold. It was on first come, first served basis, and a lot of them were dejected. But of course, as I said, plenty of people will be making their way in here. They have already made their way in here, and the Prime Minister is expected any moment to arrive here.
Absolutely, Danish. In fact, we will leave it at that and we will let you actually take stock of the Prime Minister arriving at the venue. Danish, my colleague, reporting from that very venue where Prime Minister is all set to arrive. Remember, there was a meeting earlier with the German Chancellor, Mr. Olaf Scholz, and that entire Green Partnership Pact was signed between India and Berlin. So that is something between India and Germany. That is something that really, was something that we can here talk about, and a lot really in store for the Prime Minister on his 3-day visit. Berlin was in fact the first stop, and we'll have to actually take you through the entire itinerary and also take stock of his next visit in the broadcast. Let's now shift focus for now and move to this other big story that we are tracking, and it is about the SpiceJet turbulence horror. Mirror now, in fact, has accessed the preliminary inquiry report, which in fact states that out of 195 people on board, 14, including 3 flight crew members, were in fact injured in this particular incident. Now, what does this inquiry report really say? To take a stock of this and take you through what is really come to light when it comes to this preliminary inquiry report, I'm now joined on the broadcast by my colleague Hina Gambhir. Hina, we have accessed that exclusive report of the DGCA preliminary inquiry. There is a very, very incriminating evidence also that actually puts SpiceJet in the dock. But having said that, when it comes to the kind of turbulence that was reported, could anything have been done, when it comes to the flight and the kind of inquiry that's coming to light?
Well, the investigation is still going on, but these are the initial details that we can tell our viewers as to what exactly had happened, because we all travel by air, and whenever we have traveled by air, we all have faced turbulence at some point or the other while traveling via a flight. But what happened with these 195 passengers who were on this SpiceJet flight from Mumbai to Durgapur yesterday that took off at around 5:13 in the evening was a little scary because of the kind of visuals that we are now showing to our viewers. Now, out of these 195 passengers, 14 passengers got injured, and they were severely injured that they had to be immediately taken to the hospital after the aircraft landed in Durgapur. 3 crew members also got injured. That's what we are being told. Now, out of these 14 passengers who sustained injuries, there were injuries like injuries on the head, forehead. 2 of them are still in the ICU. 3 in total are still in the hospital. Out of those 3, 2 are in ICU. 1 has got a spinal injury. So that is the kind of situation we are looking at. And what happened was a little scary because, like I said, we all have faced turbulence inside the aircraft because of rough weather. But what was the reason that there was this severe injury to all of these passengers? This is what DGCA is going to be looking at. Pending investigation, the DGCA has de-rostered the crew that was involved, the aircraft maintenance engineer who was responsible, and at the same time, a SpiceJet employee who was responsible, who was there at the control center. They have been de-rostered, and as a regulatory measure, we are being told DGCA is also going to be looking at, or rather inspecting, other aircraft that are there in SpiceJet fleet. And all this be happening also because the Civil Aviation Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia himself had put out a tweet this afternoon that this matter will be looked at seriously and an investigation has been ordered.
Absolutely, Hina. In fact, that particular security lapse that probably the DGCA will be looking at the moment has also been actually raised by Shiv Sena leader Priyanka Chaturvedi. She, in fact, took to Twitter and raised concerns and alarm over the airline SpiceJet. Now, she, in fact, expressed her concerns over the airline security and safety issues, and again brought to light the grounding of another SpiceJet aircraft by the aviation body DGCA. And she has now urged the DGCA to conduct a safety audit of the airline's fleet. Let's now shift focus. Union Minister Amit Shah will be once again visiting the state of Karnataka on Tuesday, and this time amid the buzz over possible changes in the leadership and the pressure to rejig or expand the cabinet in the state. Now, we are getting to know through our sources that the Home Minister will be holding a core committee meeting with the leaders and also will have lunch with the Chief Minister at his official residence, where all the party MPs and MLAs and MLCs will be present. In fact, if you remember, the Home Minister last visited the state of Karnataka in the month of April itself, during which the target was set and discussions were really held on induction of leaders from other political parties ahead of elections and also strengthening the organization. My colleague Deepak Bopanna now joins me live on the broadcast. Deepak, this is a very, very important meeting that is going to be actually organized in Karnataka. Home Minister at the center of it all. What can come out of it?
Well, lots, of course, expected during his visit tomorrow. He has a host of events he's going to be participating in. He also has a lot of inaugurations as well that he's going to, be at. But more importantly, what's going to be very keenly, looked into is what's his statement going to be about the future of the leadership in Karnataka, because in the last few months, there have been multiple speculations whether the BJP top brass really, do they have the confidence in Bommai to take the state into, elections this time around and emerge victorious? That has been a big question mark. When Bommai took oath as the chief minister, just a short period of time, Amit Shah visiting, Karnataka at that point in time, he put out a strong message that Bommai will lead the party into polls, when it, of course, goes into in 2023. But after that, a lot of things have changed. Some bypolls not going the BJP's way. There have been, comms within the BJP that somewhere were not amply resolved. So all of that, of course, could be laid to rest by a stern message that could come in. Now, it's going to be very interesting because on one side, this is something that we're expecting. On the other, there is, of course, this, BJP state president's position as well, that we've been told that there could be some changes to that as well. So there is, of course, all of this will have a big bearing on how the party is going to go into polls and how, there will be a permutation combination between the caste combinations in particular, which is, of course, a key factor when Karnataka votes. So all of this, of course, is going to be keenly looked into. Apart from that, there's, of course, the few cabinet berths that are still vacant. There's also, a reshuffle that's expected. The best combination to suit the BJP in Karnataka is something that Amit Shah will be looking into, because apart from all the events that I was mentioning about, tomorrow is Baswa Jayanti as well. So the first event that he's going to take part in is garlanding the statue of Baswanna, and that itself shows you that he does understand the importance of the Lingayats in Karnataka. And, garlanding the statue of Baswanna, they're sending out a strong message in that manner as well. So a lot of things to look into. And apart from that, a lunch as well is being hosted by the Chief Minister, where Amit Shah will be a part of that, along with the MPs, MLAs, and even the MLCs.
Absolutely, Deepak. Very important inputs. Thank you so much. We'll, of course, come back to you tomorrow. Once that meeting is underway, we will get to know what really is coming out of it. Lingayat outreach of the BJP is something which is very, very crucial to the party and the state of Karnataka. We'll keep a tab on this particular story. Shifting focus now, amid the looming power crisis in India, Home Minister Amit Shah, in fact, chaired a crucial meeting at his residence in the national capital. Now, at least 16 states are facing the power crunch in the country, and coal and energy ministers were part of this particular meeting. Meanwhile, Coal India has increased its supply by 16% recently as compared to April last year to meet with the rise in electricity demand this year. Now, 14% rise in power requirement to 134 billion units since April has been reported, and this is the highest consumption in any single month ever. Ministry of Power has also said that the daily electricity demand is expected to reach to about 215 to 220 gigawatts between May and June. So this was an important meet that was actually organized by Home Minister Amit Shah right before he is headed to Karnataka. So this is something that we are looking at very, very keenly, because remember, it's not just one or two states, but many of the states across the country are actually witnessing these power outages. It's a severe power crisis that India is actually looking at amid the heat wave that the country is experiencing. And it is to do, of course, with that, and also the coal crisis that we have continued to actually report on. My colleague Ila now joins me live on the broadcast. Ila, just take us through what happened in this particular meeting, because this was organized by the Home Minister of the country. There were ministers present. Obviously, a lot of things must have been discussed to take stock of the situation when it comes to not just the coal crisis, but the raising power demand, the electricity demand when it comes to the country. All right, we seem to have lost that link with Ila, but we'll continue to track in all the developments on this big story, because power crisis is something that we have our eyes on, and this is something that directly all the people are reeling under, not just being reported from one or two states, but many states across the country, and coal crisis is really at the center of it all. Now, meanwhile, power politics is also continuing on this entire matter. Aam Aadmi Party MP Raghav Chadha has now hit out at the center, saying that it is not any state but centre's responsibility to actually look at this particular power crisis that the country is waking up to. Now, this has come after the centre had said the Delhi government was misleading the public and attempting to create panic.
कोल की समस्या की जहां तक बात है, जिसके चलते देश में तमाम थर्मल पावर प्लांट या तो बंद हो गए या बंद होने की कगार पे खड़े हैं, उसमें सबसे अहम जिम्मेदारी केंद्र सरकार की है। कोयला मंत्री की है, ऊर्जा मंत्री की है, रेल मंत्री की। तीन बड़े मंत्रालय इसमें आते हैं, कोयला मंत्रालय, पावर मिनिस्ट्री और रेल मंत्री, जो रेल रैक्स के थ्रू ये सारी चीज़ें सारा जो कोयला है वो राज्यों तक पहुंचाते हैं। तो ये तीनों मंत्रालय मिलकर माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी की अध्यक्षता में अगर काम करें और सही से देश हित में काम करें, तो मुझे लगता है कोयले की समस्या से देशवासियों को निजात दिलाई जा सकती है।
So we've been talking about heat wave as well in the wake of the power crisis, and after days and months of severe heat wave, some relief could finally be also in sight, as the Indian Met Department has now predicted an abatement of heat wave conditions across most parts of the country. Now, the Met Department has said that thunderstorms and gusty winds are very likely to be witnessed over northwest India till Wednesday. And it has further said that temperature will not rise for the next 6 to 7 days, which is a welcome respite due to the active western disturbance. This is the reason why the temperatures will not rise, and for 6 to 7 days we might just be seeing that breather. Meanwhile, Delhi will receive rainfall on the 3rd of May. So all eyes on that. Now, let's shift focus. The recent Twitter bio update of Gujarat's Patidar leader and working president of Gujarat Congress, Hardik Patel, can be an indication of yet another Congress face jumping ship. Now, earlier today, Patidar leader Hardik Patel removed the party's name from his Twitter bio, and the development comes days after, in fact, Hardik dismissed the rumors of him joining the Bharatiya Janata Party, even as he said that he was upset with the state unit of the Congress party. Now, remember of the late Patel, of late, in fact, he has been praising the ruling BJP in Gujarat. So that could be a major example of where exactly is he going. Is he jumping ship to the BJP? That's something that we have to actually wait and watch. But that Twitter bio really is indicating of something that can't be left unsaid. And from Hardik Patel, let's actually shift focus to Jignesh Mevani. So the Guwahati High Court on Monday stayed the observations made by the Barpeta court against the Assam police in the bail order concerning Mr. Mevani. Now, according to the Assam government, the district and sessions judge had passed an order where he not only was granted bail, in fact should have been granted bail, but also passed certain remarks against the Assam police and the state, showing apprehension that Assam may become a police state. Now, noting this, the High Court also said that the district and sessions judge had no jurisdiction to make such kind of remarks, and the Assam government has now challenged both the observation and the bail order, and the hearing of which will be taking place on May 29th now. My colleague Niyamika now joins me on the phone line for more on this. Niyamika, do we smell trouble for Jignesh Mevani?
Well, absolutely. But today, the independent MLA of Gujarat, Jignesh Mevani, has given an open challenge to the BJP-led central government, saying that he's in Delhi for the next 24 hours, and he has said that whatever they want to do, they can do. And he has also alleged that his arrest by the Assam police is a pre-planned conspiracy to destroy him ahead of the Gujarat Assembly elections, which are coming in by the next year. And he also said that this all has been planned by some of the, what he said was that this was being planned by some of the Godse Bhakt which are there in the Prime Minister's office. And that is why these false FIRs have been registered against him. And Mevani has also, has said in an apparent swipe at the Prime Minister Narendra Modi by saying that his arrest was an act of 56-inch cowardice, and the BJP has used the name of a woman to make a false case against him. And he said that whatever has been done was a pre-planned conspiracy in view of the upcoming assembly elections in the state of Gujarat. He has also made a call of Gujarat Bandh on June 1st by seeking action against certain issues like the leak of 22 exam papers and the drugs of rupees 1.75 lakh crore that was being found in Mundra port. So he said that the BJP-led government should shift its focus.
Absolutely. Niyamika, thank you so much for joining me with all those details. So Mevani has ended up getting bail, and there were observations that were made at the Guwahati High Court. However, this has not really gone down well by the government in the state. Let's see what really happens on May 29th when that challenging of that bail plea is really heard. Shifting focus now to the central government filing an application in the Supreme Court and seeking more time to file a reply in plea challenging the constitutional validity of the sedition law. Centre, in fact, has said that the draft is ready but awaiting approval from the competent authority. My colleague Harish now joins me live on the broadcast. Harish, has there been a response from the court, considering there was ample time that was given for to the centre to actually explain what do they mean by the anti-national terminology when it comes to the sedition law, and also challenging various pleas that have challenged this age-old and colonial practice of sedition in the country?
Yes, in fact, this application means that the centre is not ready with its reply even 9 months after the Supreme Court first sought its stand on the petitions that have challenged the sedition law. Remember, there were 4 petitions in the Supreme Court which have sought scrapping of the colonial law, saying that it's being misused by the central and state governments to stifle dissent and crack down on free speech and expression. Remember, last Wednesday, the Supreme Court had Chief Justice and told the Solicitor General Tushar Mehta for the centre that the government should file the affidavit making it stand clear by this weekend. But today morning, Tushar Mehta, the Solicitor General, filed an application in the Supreme Court seeking more time to file the affidavit, saying that though the draft is ready, the competent authority is vetting it, and it has not been cleared by the top officials of the MHA. So the centre required more time. So this application could not be mentioned today before the Chief Justice. So it's expected that tomorrow is holiday, and day after tomorrow, Solicitor General Tushar Mehta will mention this petition, this application, seeking more time before the Chief Justice, because on May 5th, that is Thursday, the Chief Justice had listed this issue for an important day-long hearing, and so, but the affidavit is not ready. So remember, Centre, even during the last date of hearing, Chief Justice N.V. Ramana had questioned whether the center in favor of repealing sedition law because prima facie the court was of the view that this law is being misused to stifle dissent and crack down on free speech. So as of now, it's expected that day after tomorrow the center will mention this application for further time, and we'll have to wait and see whether the Supreme Court Chief Justice N.V. Ramana will grant more time to the center.
Absolutely. Harish, thank you so much for joining me with all those details. Now, what has this thrown forth? It is the age-old debate of the validity of sedition law and, of course, this entire dialogue around stifling of dissent, like my colleague Harish was just mentioning. Now, here's another example of dissent, and look how the US President Joe Biden is responding to it. This one is Trevor Noah in the House, and we leave it at that before we slip into a very, very short break.
You know, I think ever since you've come into office, things are really looking up. You know, gas is up, rent is up, food is up, everything. No, it really has been a tough first year for you, Mr. President.
कांधे पे मुझको बैठा ले चल अभी
सब उस घर जैसा ही तो कर दिया, फिर एक ही शहर में अलग घर क्यों?
क्योंकि अपनी एक जगह बनानी थी पापा, जिसे आप भी अपना कह सके।
Dulux Velvet Touch feels like home.
माल पूरा है? हाँ सर। मम्मी चेक कर लो।
पूरा है।
पापा टाइम पे
है। अपोलो से है सर।
थैंक्स हाँ। पापा के बीपी का इशू है, so every medicine has to be on time.
हेल्थ के मामले में श्योर रहना जरूरी है, इसीलिए पाएं अपनी पूरी प्रिस्क्रिप्शन की डिलीवरी सिर्फ 2 घंटे में डायरेक्ट अपोलो से। डाउनलोड अपोलो 24/7 नाउ।
उफ यार, स्वेट से नहा गया, अब स्वैग से ना।
Hindware Italian Collection.
स्वैग से करेंगे सबको रिफ्रेश।
Official refreshing partner of Punjab Kings.
24 बार रिजेक्ट किया है आपने इसे, not this time. It's perfect.
तुम्हारा ये प्लान बिल्कुल परफेक्ट। मैं इस प्रोजेक्ट में सिर्फ इन्वेस्टर नहीं हूँ, आई एम ऑल्सो अ वेरी प्राउड फादर।
Every moment that makes you you deserves to be celebrated with gold.
What a shot, sir.
Nice suit, sir. सर, वो मेरे बिजनेस आइडिया के लिए भी इन्वेस्टर से बात हो जाती।
हटा धनिया हटा के ला।
इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए गलत दरवाजा खटखटाना बंद कीजिए। आ गया है शार्क टैंक इंडिया सीजन 2। पहले सीजन की धमाकेदार सक्सेस के बाद शुरू हो गए हैं रजिस्ट्रेशंस। आज ही रजिस्टर कीजिए सोनी लिव पर।
Welcome back. You're watching Nation Tonight with me, Griha, and we are cutting into some breaking news that we are getting on the broadcast at this hour. So the extradition appeal in the case of Nirav Modi will now be taken up on June 28th. The fugitive diamond merchant is wanted in India over the fraud and money laundering, and it scams around $2 billion US. In fact, the 51-year-old fugitive had appealed against his extradition on mental health grounds. My colleague Danish has more inputs on this particular story. Danish, so 28th of June is when that entire plea is going to be heard. Do we smell trouble for Nirav Modi, or is he going to actually get his way out of this one as well?
See, so far it has been victory for India all along. The Westminster Magistrates Court, which tried that case, which weighed on the evidence given by Nirav Modi and by the Indian government, ruled in India's favor. This appeal has been really delayed by a very long time because of COVID first. And then, of course, both the sides were directed by the High Court. The two-judge bench that heard that appeal initially asked both the sides to file further documents and counter affidavits. Now, that was done a few months earlier. And now this June 28th is the date fixed where the High Court in London will hear Nirav Modi's appeal. Of course, he has used the plea of mental issue about mental health, that he will not get enough and proper care in the Arthur Road jail. Whether that passes the muster, we still have to see. But if we go by past records, it seems that the judges are not that comfortable with this plea, because after a sovereign assurance, the British courts have allowed the extradition of people in the past as well. It could happen in Nirav Modi's case, but as I said, it's a court case. We can never be sure till we hear it from the judges.
Absolutely. Danish, thank you so much for all those details there. So 28th of June is when that entire plea will be heard. The extradition appeal of the Indian government is going to be actually taken up in the London court. Let's shift focus now. The top court in the country has stated that the condition imposed by some state governments restricting access of unjabbed people to public places is arbitrary and should be recalled. Moreover, the Supreme Court stated that no one can be forced to vaccinate. The top court also directed the central government to make all the data on the adverse effects of COVID-19 vaccination public. In fact, this is a major development that is actually coming in from the court. While we actually talk about the merits of vaccination, it is also very, very important that the adverse effects of the COVID-19 vaccination should be actually put out by the government. That is what the court has said. In fact, they have also underlined that the state government restricting access to people who are yet not jabbed with the COVID-19 vaccine will not be allowed at public places. All this is arbitrary as per the top court, and the court in fact has underlined this one important aspect, that no one can be in fact forced to get vaccinated. This has come out of the apex court of the country, a very, very important ruling. And also one thing that they have gone ahead and asked the government to do is release the data also talking about the adverse effects of vaccination, because so far we were talking about vaccine hesitancy and more people should be encouraged to go and get vaccinated. But what about the adverse effects of vaccination? That also should be actually put out in the open so that people can actually decide and judge for themselves, and also decide how soon or not should they actually get vaccinated. And staying on COVID, amid the surge in COVID cases in the national capital, the Delhi government has increased the number of beds dedicated for COVID patients at 2 of its facilities, including the LNJP hospital. Now, Delhi today reported about 1,076 fresh infections, while the positivity rate was recorded at 6.42%. So that's the data coming from Delhi, and with the growing number of COVID cases, which by the way reduced slightly this time around in the last 24 hours. However, there have been special beds that have been dedicated to COVID patients at 2 of the government facilities in the national capital. That number of beds has been increased, and this also includes the one at the LNJP hospital. That's one facility where the number of COVID bed allotment has been increased. And remember, the cases that have come out of the national capital are slightly lesser, with about 1,076 fresh infections. However, the positivity rate has gone up to 6.42%. So this is coming out of the national capital. Curbs are in place. Mask mandate is back. COVID beds have also now been increased. This is all in the wake of the rising number of COVID cases, not just from the national capital, but from the other places across the country. Are we looking at a fourth wave is something which is obviously the immediate next question. However, better safe than sorry. So the Delhi government is ensuring that the situation that had happened in the second wave does not really, go ahead and repeat itself. So that's how the COVID curbs really now stand, and also the kind of precautions with the increase in the number of COVID beds at 2 facilities in the national capital. To take us through more about this, I'm now joined on the broadcast by my colleague Alok. Alok, more COVID beds have been allotted. What more do we see in future that the government really has planned in the wake of the growing number of cases?
Well, government has said that they are all ready, and they have now preparing the beds and all the medical facilities if the number of cases increase in the coming days. But yes, the government is still maintaining that no need to panic and no need to be very much worried, because the number of cases, yes, are rising, but this is not the severe condition, we can say. And in fact, if you see in last 24 hours in 178 of hospitalization, if you see that the figure, the government figure says that only 178 people are in the hospital. So that is what the government is saying, that severity is not yet has arises. And also about the number of cases, it's 178, which the government is saying. And in the coming days, it is there is a possibility that it may arises, but the positivity rate, which is increasing, which is around 6.24%, that is the cause of concern. As of now, government says that if the number of cases increase, then definitely they will think about to put more restrictions, and also they have now started preparing as far as the health infrastructure is concerned.
Absolutely. Alok, thank you so much for joining us with all those details there. Now, that was the situation in the national capital, but what is happening in Lucknow? So 26 people have tested positive in Lucknow's Mount Fort School. 26, including students, have in fact tested positive today itself, and other students who have come in contact with these very people will also now undergo a mandatory COVID test. Shifting focus back to the national capital, and Delhi in fact recorded the worst air quality level since the year 2016 for the month of April, with the air quality index touching 256. Now, Delhi witnessed 29 poor air quality days, which is the highest in this particular month, as per a report by the Pollution Board of the country. The month of April was also the first time that the city did not record a single day with moderate or better air quality in April. In fact, my colleague Ila spoke to a Delhi-based doctor about the pollution levels in the national capital and also the impact that it's having on the residents.
सर, एक बात बताइए कि ये जो अभी लगातार बढ़ रहा है प्रदूषण, और 2016 के बाद अप्रैल मंथ ऐसा रहा जो सबसे ज़्यादा पोल्यूटेड रहा, क्या कहना चाहेंगे, किस तरह की इससे आप देख रहे हैं इसको?
काफ़ी सरप्राइजिंग था इस बार अगर हम अप्रैल का महीना देखें तो, क्योंकि ना सिर्फ इन्होंने रिकॉर्ड तोड़े गर्मी के, बट इस टाइम पोल्यूशन भी बहुत ज़्यादा है। और ये जो हम नॉर्मली विंटर्स के टाइम देखते थे, नवंबर दिसंबर के टाइम पे जब ज़्यादा पोल्यूशन आती थी तो काफ़ी लोगों को सांस की दिक्कत आती थी। इस बार सांस की दिक्कत काफ़ी पेशेंट्स में आई है। दो कारण है, ऑफ कोर्स एक तो रहता ही है अप्रैल के टाइम पे, क्यों पोलन्स वगैरह होते हैं तो सांस की दिक्कत ज़्यादा आती है, लेकिन इस बार ज़्यादा कारण इसलिए आया क्योंकि पोल्यूशन का लेवल बहुत ज़्यादा हाई था। अब 200 का अगर AQI लेवल क्रॉस कर रहा है, विच इज़ वेरी अनयूजुअल के हम अप्रैल में हो, तो इसलिए नंबर पेशेंट बढ़े थे, सिवियरिटी बढ़ी थी, और जो एडमिशन्स हैं वो भी बढ़े थे।
अभी भी आपके जो पेशेंट्स हैं, क्या उनकी भी संख्या में बढ़ोतरी हुई है?
अभी भी बढ़े हुए हैं पेशेंट्स, अभी भी हैं हमारे पास। रोज़ की जो ओपीडी होती है उससे कोई 15 to 20% ज़्यादा ओपीडी चल रही है फॉर लास्ट ऑलमोस्ट मंथ, एक मंथ से। और ये हीट और पोल्यूशन दोनों लोगों के लिए काफ़ी नुकसानदायक रहे हैं।
Now, over the past few weeks, we are seeing a steady rise in COVID cases across the country, like we have been reporting. Now, in the last 7 days itself, COVID cases have gone up from 15,000 to 19,000 in the country. The worst affected states that are contributing the most to this COVID tally are Delhi, Haryana, Kerala, Uttar Pradesh, and also the state of Maharashtra. Naturally, there are concerns of a fourth COVID wave, and at such a time, the Supreme Court has given a big and significant order that nobody can be forced to get vaccinated. Now, the top court has observed that the government have no place to actually prove that any unvaccinated people go ahead and spread the virus more than the vaccinated people, and hence they can't really force people to go and get jabbed. And till the cases are low, no restrictions shall be imposed on unvaccinated to access public places, like we just about reported. Now, Mirana also spoke to Dr. Gagandeep Kang, who's India's top and most celebrated virologist. Let's listen in to that interview.
I think the Supreme Court is absolutely right. I don't think we should force any medical intervention on a person who believes that they do not need it. However, there can be situations where your privileges might depend on the fact that you are not a danger to others. Now, the question is, are we talking about infection? Are we talking about disease? And which variants does this matter for? Until Omicron, it was very clear that vaccinated people actually had reduced ability to transmit and were protected themselves. With Omicron, we know that the reduction in the ability to transmit among vaccinated people is only fractionally less than what you see in unvaccinated individuals. It's there, but it's a lot less. So there comes the question, are we stopping transmission? Are we stopping people from being dangers to others by making sure that they are vaccinated? I think in some situations, it's really important to make sure that people are vaccinated. For example, if you are a healthcare worker, and particularly if you look after people who are immunocompromised or the elderly, your occupational requirements should require you to be vaccinated. Just like we do with the hepatitis B vaccine, where we insist that all healthcare workers are vaccinated so that there is no transmission of disease to their patients, right?
That was an important voice when it comes to that big question whether we are looking at a fourth wave of COVID. We are slipping into a very short break. With that, and news and updates, in fact, continue on the other side. Let's get you more of that on the other side after this very short break.
Feels like home.
Dulux Velvet Touch with True Color Technology feels like home.
Dulux. मेरी बैटरी डाउन थी इसलिए सोचा रिचार्ज करा लूं। अच्छा, मेरी सबसे फेवरेट सुपर हीरो आप हो।
ज्यादा चीजी मत बन, वैसे भी ईट फिट पिज्जा में काफी चीज है। अब आएगा पिज्जा में मजा।
Atmanirbhar Bharat is not only a clarion call for a national self-reliance, it also creates the way for expanding our Prime Minister vision from Atmanirbhar Bharat to Bharat Par Nirbhar.
Presenting partner IDFC First Bank, always you first. Powered by CoinSwitch, India's largest crypto app. Sustainability partner GE, building a world that works. State partner Government of Chhattisgarh. Associate partner Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham. Insurance partner LIC, Har Pal Aapke Saath. For a new day partner Toshiba.
Welcome back. This is Nation Tonight. Now, instant messaging app WhatsApp has banned nearly 18 lakh Indian accounts in March. This on the basis of complaints received from users and also through WhatsApp's own mechanism to detect violations. In February, WhatsApp in fact had banned nearly 15 lakh Indian accounts. The bans come in accordance with the new IT rules implemented by by the country, in fact, last year. And the new IT rules require large digital platforms with over 50 lakh users to publish compliance reports every month, mentioning the details of complaints received and also the action taken. And shifting focus now, with a record surge in consumer complaints against cab aggregators, especially Uber and Ola, over their high fares, the Union Consumer Affairs Secretary has now called for a meeting with the cab aggregators. The meet has been called to discuss issues, especially the algorithm used to calculate the fares and also the surge pricing and cancellation charges. The meeting comes as commuters have been complaining about arbitrariness of some of the levies, including the refusal of drivers to switch on the air conditioning, citing a global surge in oil prices.
कॉमन पर्सन को ये प्रॉब्लम हो रही है कि एक तो कैब्स अवेलेबल नहीं हो रही हैं, क्योंकि वो लोग भी अपने मनमाने तरीके से चलाते हैं, मनमाने तरीके से पैसे भी कई बार मांग लेते हैं और कई बार उनके पास कोई ऑप्शन नहीं होती, ओला से ऑफ भी कर देते हैं कि हमको पैसे दे दीजिए. इट्स अ वेरी वैलिड पॉइंट.
फॉर एग्जांपल हम कैब बुक करते हैं तो 15-20 बार ऐसे ही वो ड्राइवर कैंसिल करते रहते हैं और वो कैब बुक नहीं होती. चार्जेस ऑब्वियसली, हाँ, वो चार्जेस भी कंज्यूमर को ही पे करने पड़ते हैं. तो ये एक बहुत बड़ा इशू है.
ओवर चार्जिंग शुड बी देयर, बट देयर शुड बी अ लिमिट कैप फॉर ओवर चार्जिंग. लेट्स से इफ द customer is traveling for 5 kilometers, then there should be a cap on the peak pricing. It should not be more than 10% or 15% of the amount.
ऐसा अनुभव पड़ता है, लेकिन जो प्राइस है वो फिक्स कर देता है ना, वो कस्टमर का दिक्कत नहीं. कभी कल सर्च में ज़्यादा भाड़ा रहता है, कभी कम रहता है, उससे कस्टमर को बड़ा दिक्कत होता है. जैसे बारिश टाइम में गाड़ी नहीं मिलता रहता है, बारिश टाइम में बहुत सर्च रहता है, वो बहुत दिक्कत परेशानी होता है.
Shifting focus to the state of Karnataka, now Bengaluru police has arrested 12 candidates in the PSI recruitment examination scam, and the role of the accused is being analysed now. However, these candidates arrested after anomalies were found in their answer sheets. Meanwhile, Congress has levelled some serious allegations against the Education Minister C.N. Ashwanath Narayan of shielding the accused in the PSI scam. Congress, in fact, has said that the relative of Minister Ashwanath Narayan, Darshan Gowda, was immediately released after he was arrested by the CID.
One person, Mr. Darshan V. Gowda, who has been selected as PSI. For him, there was a notice from the CID to appear before the CID on 20th of April. And in fact, one more case has been registered in the High Grounds police station, wherein he is also an accused. So, media has been telecasting that. So, when he came before the police, there was an influence from a minister who is very, very powerful, has taken 80 lakhs from the selected candidates, and is helped him to get a rank in the selection process.
Let's get you all the action that's happening in the high-octane match between Kolkata and Rajasthan that's currently underway at the Wankhede Stadium. So while Rajasthan is eyeing at another victory, Team Kolkata is looking to regain form after 5 defeats in a row. And my colleague Karishma now joins me on the phone line for what exactly can we expect in this particular match. Karishma, this is a must-win for Kolkata. I believe, I think we don't yet have that link with Karishma. We'll try and reconnect with her. This is an absolute pot boiler of a match because when it comes to Kolkata and Rajasthan, this is something that all eyes will be on. Rajasthan is eyeing at another victory. Kolkata needs one badly. What can we expect is only something that, these next few hours are going to tell. Karishma is back with me on the broadcast. Karishma, I believe this is a must-win for Kolkata. What are we looking at over here?
Well, yes, absolutely. Kolkata Knight Riders really need to win this match, stay in the competition, because more or less the top 3 have been decided, but it is going to be a long fight for the 4th spot to be in that top 4 to compete for the title. And Kolkata Knight Riders, this win against Rajasthan will do them a whole lot good if they manage to win this match. But at the moment, they've lost 1 wicket, but Shreyas Iyer is in the crease, and we will know by in a couple of hours as to what exactly happens to this match. But yes, a very interesting match, because Rajasthan has more or less sealed its place in the top 4, but a must-win match for Kolkata Knight Riders.
Absolutely. Karishma, thank you so much for joining us with all those details there. Of course, all eyes are on this big match between Kolkata and Rajasthan. We'll have to wait and watch what really comes out of it and who, in turn, clinches the victory. And some breaking news inputs coming in on the broadcast. Children aged between 12 and 17 can now opt for Serum Institute's COVID jab of Covovax at private centers. This provision has been enabled on the CoWIN portal as well. This is actually a big update as kids can now opt for Covovax jab. An important update there coming in for vaccination for children. This is between the age group of 12 to 17. They can, in fact, now opt for Serum Institute's COVID vaccine, the Covovax. This is available at private centers, and the provision, in fact, will be enabled on the CoWIN portal. So another vaccine addition for children between the age group of 12 to 17, a big development, and also something that the parents, of course, will be heaving a sigh of relief on. More and more options when it comes to jabs for children. Remember, this is one age group that is getting impacted in this particular wave of COVID, because now that the schools have physically opened up, this is very, very important to actually get the children vaccinated and to keep them free of the virus. And let's shift focus now. The world is feting Satyajit Ray on his 101st birth anniversary. The master filmmaker who is known for his beautiful body of work. Now, did you know that even Martin Scorsese was influenced by Satyajit Ray's work once? Cannes Film Festival also plans to pay tribute to Satyajit Ray on the occasion of his birth anniversary with a special 10-film retrospective, and the same is being discussed with the Indian government. The 12-day Cannes Film Festival will in fact start on May 17th. While this may be a fitting tribute to India's greatest filmmaker, here's ours.